Welcome to the Coming Strength and Fitness podcast. I'm Jill, coach and owner of CSNF. My team and I are here to help you take charge of your fitness and nutrition. In each episode, we'll provide you our best so that you can take your health to the next level. I hope you enjoyed today's episode with our host and coach, Alex Cottingham.
And we're back on episode 61 of the podcast. Jill, how does it feel to have done 61 episodes?
Gosh, it's like a dream.
We've had two different faces of the podcast. We've had at least over a dozen people we've interviewed.
Oh, yeah.
I think you've been on almost all of them, nearly all of them.
A lot of them.
Mostly all of them.
I do like to talk, so it makes sense.
You're good at it. Jill, for the people who are just tuning in, I think it's a fun question to kind of revisit. Do you remember your first CrossFit workout?
Oh, yes, I do.
What was it?
I sure do. So we don't have slam balls here at CSNF, but, back in the day when I started, and this is like 2006, you had a little weighted ball. It's like a mini wall ball, but heavier.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a slam ball.
With sand in it.
And I did 150 slam balls for time. So you take the ball over your head, you bring it to the ground in a squat, you pick it up and you take it back over your head. It's like a wall ball, sort of. 150 for time. I couldn't walk maybe for a week and a half.
Oh,
afterwards.
Sure. My first CrossFit workout was the benchmark workout Barbara, which is all body weight, 5 rounds of 20 pull-ups, 30 push-ups, 40 sit-ups, 50 air squats.
We just did Barbara a couple weeks, maybe last week? Was it 2 weeks ago?
It might have been one of the weeks I was out.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have 3 minutes in between each round. We didn't. It was just 5 rounds straight through.
You need that 3 minutes.
And I grew up in Michigan. This was December 24th. It was Christmas Eve at 6 a.m. And I was like, sure, I'll go do CrossFit on Christmas Eve for the first time.
Weirdo.
And it was in my buddy's garage before they actually started a gym. It was in his little barn area, probably similar size of the studio right here.
Yeah.
And after I did that, I went out and took my shirt off and laid in the 2 feet of snow up in Michigan for about 20 minutes. And I felt my banana coming back up. And I literally remember saying, what is this? I want to get better at it.
Yeah. And this is another memory I have from my first days of CrossFit is Kinsey was an infant. And I did a workout and I took her home for a nap and I had her like over her crib to put her in it and my arms gave out. And luckily she was over her mattress and she just kind of plopped out of my arms, but they literally gave out. And I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Oh, my body's shutting down.
Yes.
So Joe, we've had many reps, many workouts, many years of doing CrossFit.
I feel like at this point I've done every combination possible.
If you're listening to this podcast and you have CrossFit experience, we can relate to you that we've started somewhere, we've had the fails, we've been super sore, and we enjoy it. We know it works. The reason I say that is because one element of going the distance, I do think, is scaling.
Oh gosh, yes.
Is knowing what your body needs, how to scale, and the importance of it. Because let's say the context of CSNF, if I was just going to do performance or try to RX every single workout 5 to 6 days a week, 52 days a week, I would run myself into the ground. There's a very important skill of listening to your body and understanding what scaling is, why it's important, and that's why we're talking about this conversation, right? Jill, what is scaling in general?
So in CrossFit, when we write programming, there is a prescribed workout. We call it the RX. And here at CSNF, we have the performance, which is similar to RX, and the fitness, which is a version of the performance, just without a lot of heavy barbell and high skills. So we have options for people, which is great. So scaling would be taking that prescribed workout and changing it somehow.
Okay.
When you scale, and I just wanted to point this out real quick, you want to make sure that you keep the stimulus of the movement, right? So if it's a scaling for running, you want to make sure that it is a cardiovascular based movement that you're scaling with. You wouldn't want to do lunges instead of running.
Right.
If it's box jumps, you wouldn't want to do sit-ups instead of box jumps. So you want to kind of preserve the stimulus of the movement when you scale. I'd like to say that up front. Yeah.
That's good. Because the purpose of scaling is really, like you said, to make a change or modify for the intended stimulus of the workout. How do we know what the intended stimulus of the workout is?
Most of the time, the coach is going to tell you as they're briefing the workout.
Okay.
If you want to learn a little bit on your own, you can learn a lot about stimulus just by looking at the time frame, the domain, the loads used, whether it be body weight or a heavy barbell, what skill level some of the movements are going to be, and then also where you fall inside of those movements and loads.
Yeah.
So if I see like Fran, I know that that's going to be a shorter workout. It's 45 movements total, 45 pull-ups and 45 thrusters. And if I look at Murph, I know that's going to be a much longer workout because of the 2 miles of running and all the body weight movements in between. So in terms of stimulus, some are, hard and fast. Some are long and slow and steady. And it just depends on what the movements are, the loading and things like that.
So let's say I am an athlete in the gym, and for context, we have performance and fitness, similar to like RX and then a fitness track. Like you said, less complexity, less loading with barbell. Let's say I'm an athlete that does performance 4 to 5 days a week, but there's just something inside of me that just resists scaling. I know the weight says 95. And I'm just going to put 95 on there, but I really probably should be doing 75 because I know I'm going to get the better stimulus. I'm going to be able to do 10 reps instead of 5 reps, breaking it up. Like, why should I not resist scaling and actually embrace it?
That is actually a common thing that happens with people. They see what's written on the board and they want to do what the board says.
Exactly.
But many times what the board says is not what you should do. And also, just because you could doesn't mean you should.
Yes.
It's all dependent on how you're feeling that day. How's your body feeling? How have you been sleeping? Are you really stressed at work? There's so many things that determine what you need for your body that day. And I'll be honest, for me, over the years, I scale a lot. And I change the workouts to benefit my body, to preserve the stimulus of the workout, and to also do what's best for me.
So give us some handles there. Like, how do you know, or what do you feel like, or what are you thinking about when you're like, yep, this is a day to scale?
Let's take, for instance, Murph is coming up in a couple weeks. I have already decided, I have done Murph every way you can slice it and dice it.
Same. Me too.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to use a vest this year. I am still working on rehabilitating my back. I am going to do Murph without my vest. And I feel like that is the best way for me to approach that workout, preserve the stimulus, and do what's best for me. And I have no problem doing that at all. I think the problem comes in when people feel like they don't have another choice. Like, I've got to do it. I've got to do what that board says. But you don't. You really don't. Yeah.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head that underneath scaling is a lot of emotion. And many times,
and ego, honestly.
And I was going to say, it's setting your ego aside and setting your pride aside and saying, hey, what's best for me is actually listening to my body. That's more important than doing what's on the board.
Yes.
So let's dig into that for 1 minute. Listening to our body. I would say that there's a lot of different signals and messages our body's giving us, because sometimes I'm sore and it's good to push past it. And other times my body is a different kind of sore or drained or fatigued and I need to listen to it.
Yes.
What's the difference?
I think the number one thing you can do is a check-in. Check in with the bod. Is your soreness a result of the wall balls, or are you sore because you have a little tweak with your knee kind of thing? So understanding the difference between soreness and having something that actually hurts, there's a big difference there. If you're sore, sometimes it's like hair of the dog. If you're sore from wall ball, squatting will probably flush out some of that lactic acid that's built up in your muscles anyway. And moving is a lot of times the remedy for stiffness and soreness. Now, if you're injured from whatever happened, I don't know. I hear a lot of people say they do yard work and they get injured over the weekend. Like, pick up mulch. My back is killing me. I moved 800 pounds of mulch this weekend. Okay, let's not do heavy deadlifts today.
Exactly.
Let's not do that.
That's
Your back has been worked all weekend. Let's do something different. So it's just a matter of recognizing your body's signals.
I loved that you pointed out the difference between the normal tweaks and aches versus pain and injury.
Yes.
I think pain is a common overused word in this world, because I was actually just talking to a couple athletes and they're like, oh, I feel pain in my leg when I run. So initially, like, well, if you feel pain in your leg to run, like maybe we should stop. But then as we dug into it a little bit more,
I feel pain in my heart when I run.
yeah, or
Because I don't like it.
Exactly.
It hurts my heart.
But it was actually, instead of the pain, because I'm thinking, okay, he sprained his ankle, his meniscus is shot,
Yeah.
or like when I think of like an injury, like we need to stop and modify.
Yes.
It was just the normal. Oh, like my calf is sore.
It's fatigue.
Or
Yeah.
this my ankle just feels like the wear and tear, the demand of just the impact of the plantar flexion, like for 1,000 reps, which is normal when you're running, versus, oh wait, your knee's the size of a watermelon. Maybe that's an actual injury.
But here's another thing that we have to consider as professional coaches. You and I, the way that we understand bodies and how they work in training is different than a lot of our general population. So it is part of our job to help our athletes unpack. Tell me why that hurts. Is it pain or is it sore?
Yes.
And that's why we're on the floor. That's why we do what we do and why we continue to educate ourselves so that we can help people figure out what is going to be the best way to approach this workout for you today with that watermelon on your knee, basically.
Okay, I have another question for you before I do, Jill. I need to ask something that you just said. Did you say hair of the dog?
Hair. Okay, so if you would not know this because you're
I've never
not
heard
a drinker.
of that.
Hair of the dog.
Hair
is
of the dog?
You wake up with a hangover and you have a drink.
Oh, got it.
There's something physiologically about having alcohol with a hangover in the morning that helps.
Got it. See, I
never heard of
that.
Yep.
And I was like, what did she just
Somebody
say?
out there knows why, but it's not me.
And I was like, where did the dog come from? Anyways, okay, resume.
So, but the correlation was like if your legs are sore, you probably need to move them.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Maybe
squats are what you need to do if you're sore from squats.
And again, not injured or
Right.
like you have an injury or pain, but like, hey, you're just sore or you're tight. It might actually be good to move and get the blood flowing a little bit.
Absolutely. Yes.
So let's talk about the other situation. Let's say someone who comes into CSNF is strictly doing fitness. They don't even look at performance.
We have a lot of people that do that.
Which is great.
Yeah.
You can get really, really fit.
Totally.
Quote unquote, scaling a workout or doing fitness. It's very similar to CSNF, what we do here. What would you tell someone that probably needs to start getting their toes wet with performance more rather than just staying towards the scaled option?
It would just depend on if that's their goal. If their goal is just to come in and do fitness every day and to move their body and get stronger, then I would never encourage them to do performance unless they had performance-based goals.
Yeah, and I do know of a handful of people, and they're in my head right now, that they want to get fitter, they want to get better at the sport, but there's just this, I think it might be a lack of self-confidence, lack of experience, just intimidation factor of like, oh wow, I'm going to do overhead squats rather than front squats, where they're fully capable and have the mobility to do good overhead squats, but they're like, I'm just going to stick to front squats rather than pushing themselves a little bit.
Okay, so that I understand the question a little better now.
Yeah.
I would choose a workout to toe the water that's a low barrier to entry. Like, let's take Helen, for example. It's running in kettlebell swings and pull-ups. So maybe for fitness, they're doing ring rows, and this person wants to improve performance. They've really been working on their ring rows. Those might be a little too easy for them. Let's try to do some pull-ups and then go to ring rows when we get too fatigued to finish out.
That's
with pull-ups.
good.
So a lower barrier to entry. We don't want to tell someone who's just getting really good at ring rows to go hop in and do Amanda on squat, snatch, and muscle up day. They're going to be like, what am I going to do here?
Because I guess the purpose of that situation is sometimes people will just default to scaling.
Sure.
Without thinking, hey, what is the stimulus and what's the win? What's the goal of...
What do I want to get out of this workout?
Exactly. And I think it's very easy to just look up on the screen and say, okay, I'm going to do that, or I'm immediately going to scale down versus critically thinking, okay, what's the purpose? What do I want to get out of it? What do I need to be thinking about? Because I really do think that is a competitive advantage. It's going to take your health and fitness to the next level rather than just nonchalantly not thinking about it, just doing the workout, honestly, many times at the same exact speed and intensity, whether it's a 4-minute workout or a 40-minute workout. You have those people that are like, yeah, I'm going to go on the bike at 42 RPMs.
That's me.
No matter if it's 42 seconds or 42 minutes.
Jill, did you start? Yes. It's not even turned over 1 calorie yet.
But understanding the win of that workout, which is under the umbrella, the importance of scaling, which is the topic of this conversation.
If you want to talk about the other end of the spectrum in terms of changing workouts, you can also scale a workout by scaling up.
This has been a
Hot
take at CSNF, and also a growth area for me, because I always assumed that scaling is scaling down.
Correct.
But scaling is just changing up or down.
Changing the prescription.
Changing the actual prescription is just a scale.
Yeah, it's not what's on the board.
Tell us more about that, Jill.
I mean, so the definition of scaling is doing something different than is prescribed. The prescription is up on the board in black and white. If you choose the 70-pound kettlebell when it says it's supposed to be a 53, you are scaling. Now you're scaling up versus scaling down, but it's still a scale.
Exactly. Which
that's hard. That's hard.
When you put it publicly for people to see your scores and you write scaled and they're like, no, I think you meant RX. And I was like, no, I changed the workout. So it's technically scaled because when it says women RX or male RX, you're comparing your
apples
score
to
apples to apples. Everyone who did the exact same thing. When it says 155-pound power cleans, I know everyone did 155-pound power cleans. But if I went to 165 because I wanted to get a little bit different, heavier stimulus, I'm going to write scaled so that my RX friends are like, wait a minute, like he did do it's one of those games. So
can I ask you a question? In order to preserve a stimulus, would you ever scale up knowing that it was going to change what you were supposed to get out of the workout? Would you go heavier when you shouldn't?
Have I? Yes.
Oh, sure. But should you?
Probably not.
Right. Why?
Because you're completely changing the point and stimulus of that workout.
You could end up doing power cleans for 8 straight minutes and never get to the pull-ups or the box jumps.
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
Because, again, if my goal is strength building or some sort of strength focus for this block or for whatever, I might change the workout for me personally because I know that's the goal. But if I am strictly in class saying I want to attack this workout as prescribed, I should not do that because it's completely changing the stimulus of the workout. Like you said, let's take Amanda, 975 squat snatches and ring muscle ups. If I went to 225, that just tripled the time of the workout, which
you
is
could still scale it up. You could still do a heavier snatch for
sure. Absolutely.
And maintain the stimulus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But at that point, you have to ask why.
At what point do I maintain the stimulus is always the question if you want to go up.
Which I think honestly bleeds into why on the board it says time cap 20 minutes. Time cap 4 minutes.
Time cap rolls right into this.
I've been at gyms that have never had a time cap. And the 7:30 class bleeds into the 8:30 class, which bleeds into the 9:30 class.
Bleed into the 9:30. It could bleed into Tuesday.
And literally the coach would be like programming or explaining the programming over here while people are still finishing the workout over here. And I think we've missed the mark at that point because all the workouts are different. And you don't just come saying, I'm going to do whatever workout I want to do. If it says time cap of 10 minutes, kind of like our Monday workout, which was...
Get the work done in 10 minutes.
Get the work done in 10 minutes because that's the point, which is why I have mixed feelings of time cap hits at 10 minutes. They're like, hey, do I have 2 minutes to finish my workout? Sure, maybe.
2 minutes, sure.
2 minutes, sure. Yeah. But if you want to actually look at the workout, go as hard as you can in those 10 minutes, and that's the stimulus. So that's just a little riff from me.
Little riff.
Jill, any other thoughts on scaling and why it's important?
Gosh, we've been doing this for so long. I just want to let everybody know that scaling is cool, it's good, and you should do it often because we know your body doesn't feel great every day.
Yeah.
Like it can't. No one's does. And you just need to listen to what your body is telling you and adapt your workouts to that. The coaches on the floor are very well equipped to help you figure out what's going to be the best stimulus for you that day. That's why we're here. That's why we're leading and coaching you through class. So if you ever have questions, come and ask. Like, hey, I'm not feeling great today. What do you think I should do on the deadlift? We'll give you our best advice. Yeah.
Jill, I've said this before, both recording and not, that this is the best CrossFit gym I've ever been to. I think there are many elements to why I say that. And one of them is because when someone comes to the gym and they're going to scale a workout, they're not judged. They're not looked down upon. No. They're not inferior or less than or off to the corner by themselves. I say that because I have been part of communities that unless you do the prescribed RX overhead squats, and if you don't do that, then hey, why don't you just like maybe come to a different class or maybe you go over there.
That's terrible.
And it's a very cliquey, exclusive, tribal, just toxic environment because it's if you don't do what we do, then you're out, which is the complete opposite vibe and culture and community of what we're doing here at CSNF.
I mean, our mission is to change lives through fitness, not through RX.
That's it. That everyone's health journey is different, and we're going to meet them where they're at. And whether you're scaling on Monday or scaling on Thursday, up or down, we're going to meet you where you're at, and your coach is going to help you specifically do that, and everyone's welcome. And honestly, scaling is such a part of our culture that we don't even think twice about it.
No one does.
It's part of the prescription. It's part of the culture on why people stay here for 4, 5, 7, 10 years.
And that's why that they're able to have the longevity that they have, because they're smart about their workouts. They're not doing things they shouldn't be doing or even feel like doing, or their bodies don't want them to do. Like, that's why that we have people who've been here for so long.
We've been to the places that just
hammer
wear
you.
and tear you down and hammer you with just barbell after barbell after max after heavy after impact. And you're like, not even by Saturday, but by Thursday, you're like, I am dead. I can't even get out of bed. Where no, that's why our programming is much different. It's for lifestyle and it's for longevity. It's not for that. And it's also listen to our body, and our coach is going to help you scale appropriately for what's best for you.
Yes.
So that would be my last closing thoughts.
Scaling is cool.
Scaling is cool, guys. You ain't cool unless you scale your workouts.
We'll make that into a shirt.
Alrighty, guys. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you on the next episode.
See you guys. Thank you for joining us today, friends. I hope today's conversation helped you gain a greater understanding of the mission at CSNF to change lives through fitness and nutrition. Check us out on social media or reach out at comingstrengthandfitness.com. We would love to help you take your health to the next level. We'll see you next time.